My name is Tracy, and I will be moderating our webinar. So we're really excited for today's QlikMaps webinar, but before we get started with our presentation, I'm just going to go over a couple of housekeeping items. So right now, I do have everyone on mute just to avoid background noises that may distract you from listening to the webinar. However, we of course do want to encourage active participation. So if you have a question, just type it into the question box at the bottom right-hand side of your webinar screen. We are going to try to keep this webinar to 30 minutes as we promised in the invite, but we of course will monitor those questions as they come in. We'll answer as many of them as we have time for at the end of the webinar. We'll also be live tweeting throughout the webinar, so feel free to join in on the conversation online by following us at QlikMaps, the Twitter handle. And I also want to introduce our speaker, Patrick Vinton. So Patrick is our CTO. You can see his picture up there. He has over 20 years of experience in all aspects of BI rollouts. He has worked in over 100 BI environments in every major industry and has co-authored 4 patents related to BI report development, SQL generation engines, and BI application server scalability. So with that, I will go ahead and turn the presentation over to Patrick.
Thanks, Tracy, and thanks everybody for joining today. We just got back from the Connections Conference, and for those of you who are unaware, that's the big world conference that Qlik hosts once a year. It's where we get to meet a lot of our fellow partners from Qlik all over the world, as well as many Qlik customers. And we were a sponsor as we have been for the past several years, and we had a booth there. And one of the main things that we were asked over and over is, okay, we've heard about QlikMaps and we know about it, but how is it different than QlikGeo Analytics? And so just for those of you who don't know, QlikGeo Analytics is the offering that Qlik offers for sophisticated mapping and location analytics. So we were asked that question over and over throughout the conference. And so we thought it was a good idea to go ahead and just follow up and spend a little bit more time to talk about that to the other people who may not have had a chance to stop by our booth. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to go show a demo, actually probably 4 or 5 demos, and then we'll wrap up with a little bit of Q&A, as much as we can squeeze in. So what makes QlikMaps different? So, in many ways, the two products are very similar. They have a lot of the same functionalities that each of them do. There are some things that one product can do that the others cannot. So there's very few differences from a functionality standpoint. So the differences that do come into play go into 2 basic categories. One is about architecture, and the other is about the whole overall approach to location analytics. One is focused more for people who are experts in location analytics, and another one is focused on the casual end user and self-service. And so we'll show some examples of both those things here in just a minute. So first of all, let's talk about architecture. So let's talk about what the QlikGeo Analytics architecture looks like here. So it's a fairly complicated architecture here. So you can see it's a series of 7 extensions. It's also a custom connector, and it's also a series of servers here. So it's a very complicated architecture here. So there are a couple different versions of QlikGeo Analytics. Some of them you would install all of this stuff on premise. One of the more common ones we hear about is when people put some of these items that are in orange, they have those in the cloud, and they basically have a subscription with Qlik to use these things in the cloud. And so that's really but even in that situation, as you can see, the item is in blue. Those are things that need to be installed and maintained in your environment. So especially the custom connector can get kind of hairy. And so rather than just go ahead and talk about these, let's talk about what the basic OS would look like here. Analytics object on the dashboard, and it's got a couple cities that it wants to plot on the dashboard. So first thing that would do is the extension object, the user would interact with the extension object and say, here's my selections. I need to plot these things as bubbles on a map. The Qlik server would say, okay, I got those selections and I got some dimensional information about those bubbles. Now I need to figure out the coordinates for those. How do I figure out where on the map those would be? Or if this was a polygon, for example, or an area layer, as it's called, what does that shape actually look like? Well, so in order to do that, it would have to reach out to a QlikGeo Analytics server, and it does that through a custom connector. And then the custom connector would reach out to the separate QlikGeo Analytics server, And again, this could be on-premise or it could be in the cloud, and the server would do a lookup. Would probably have to do some geocoding. It would send it back through the custom connector, back to the server to the extension and to the browser. So you can see for a very basic request, we have a whole lot of stuff going on and several servers involved. We're looking at, depending on how you look at it, you're talking at about up to 3 servers involved for one basic request. But actually, there's even more servers involved, and that's for the actual background map. So now we've got the dots, but now we have to get what the background actually looks like. And so we're actually making another trip out to a QlikGeoAnalytics server that would give us the background map. So we can see it gets pretty complicated pretty quick for just a basic request. The other thing I'd like to point out while I'm on the slide, we can see that we are passing quite a bit of data around here. So if we're looking at a cloud solution here, we're passing information about our customers for potentially offsite, so they can be geocoded. And then we have sensitive information that's being passed back to us. So one option around that, if you have tight security requirements, is to host all these things on site. So now you're talking, potentially up to 5 extra servers that you're having to manage inside just to get a very basic map. So let's contrast that with what QlikMaps looks like. QlikMaps is a single extension. There is no extra server. The QlikMaps server is actually the Qlik server. So if we go through that example here, we want to plot a few dots on a map, or we want to plot a polygon of some sort on the map. The QlikMaps would reach out to this Qlik server and say, hey, here's my selections. Qlik server says, oh, I've already got those selections. And by the way, I've also got all the information I need to plot it on a map. Here you go, QlikMaps. QlikMaps sends it to the browser. And as far as the background maps, those come in from the cloud through MapQuest, Mapbox, or Carto. So those are the ones that the licensing comes with QlikMaps. If you have your own map servers or you have another license somewhere, you're free to use those. But as you can see, it's a much, much simpler process. So not surprisingly, it's probably a whole lot easier to set up QlikMaps versus QlikGeoAnalytics. And that's probably a good segue to talk about, so we talked about architecture, but let's talk about what that really means in the real world. What that really means in the real world is with QlikMaps, you can move faster, much, much faster. So the installation and deployment, it's one extension instead of 7 extensions plus a custom connector plus 5 servers. QlikMaps instead is just a single extension. It's fast development, very, very fast development. In fact, we're going to show you some examples here in a second. And the reason it's fast development is because we've blurred the lines between developers and end users. And we're very much in the Qlik paradigm of self-service here. We're going to get fast performance. And what those first 3 things lead to are the last 2 things. And this is important for the people that are signing the checks. We got fast user adoption and very, very fast time to value. So I think we already talked about most of those things. So let's go ahead and just jump right into a demo. Actually, several demos. So we've got Qlik Desktop open here. We're going to start creating an app. One of the first apps I like to do when I'm showing this off is use the same data set that is often demoed when you see your first QlikGeoAnalytics demo. This is the data set that you'll often see here. And for those of you who are Qlik partners, this is the data set that you're given in order to demo when you first show and want to demo QlikGeoAnalytics. So you can see where we've got some address information, city, country. We've got a couple KPIs over here like sales, freight, and stuff like that. But basically, at the end of the day, it's just a spreadsheet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to drag that spreadsheet, just drop it on to Qlik Sense, and hit Add Data. And so with that, let's go ahead and start creating a QlikMaps visualization of that. So we're going to drop the QlikMaps object on the screen. And the first thing we'll do is, we saw that this data was at the country level. It was at the country and city level, but let's just start off with country. Okay, so there's all of the countries in that data set. Right now we've got some random colors. Right now, let's go ahead and say we want to color those based upon sales. So there we go. In 2 clicks only, we have a functioning map. So we dragged and dropped a raw spreadsheet, pulled it in, and we've got a fully functioning map in 2 clicks. So that's a single layer. So now let's go start talking about, we want to plot the cities on there also. So in this case, let's plot cities. In this case, we want to plot a marker instead of a polygon, and we're going to simply say city. And then here are all of our cities that are coming up right now. So right now we see we have it sized and colored by sales, but maybe let's keep the colors by sales, but we're going to size them based upon the number of orders, for example. So the bigger the bubble means the more orders that person has had, and the darker the bubble means the more sales they've had. So we can see the two are different here. And when we click on that, we get to see our pop-ups are automatically updated with the information by which we are coloring or sizing it by. So again, we haven't opened a single expression editor. We're moving completely within a single extension. Very, very simple self-service here. So let's say for some reason we don't want that city and county country to be showing at the same time. We want to enable drilling. So that's very simple to set up as well. So we'll come here toward the drilling section of this, and we'll simply say that the parent is country. And so now we're done. So now let's get out of here and let's interact with it as if we were an end user. We'll select Brazil by double clicking on it. And all of a sudden, here's all of our cities in Brazil with the KPIs that we set up. So very, very fast to get going and to get things configured. Okay, so that's one use case. Another thing that you'll see when you see a Qlik GeoAnalytics demo is there will be a little bit of talking about a rip and replace of some of the out of the box maps. So what we're looking at now is a canned demo that ships with Qlik Sense. This one, you probably recognize this. This demo's been there for a very long time, and it's got a map here. And somewhere else on another tab, it shows it by city as well. What I'd like to do is actually replace this map, this object with a QlikMaps object. We can see how that works. So let's go ahead and just make a duplicate of that. Okay, then we will delete this guy here, and let's throw in a QlikMaps object. So the first thing that they had there was they were showing sales by state. We'll go down to state in our data model. Okay, in this case, QlikMaps was not able to automatically determine what the geo field was in this, so we have to give it a little bit of help here. There's a field in this data model called area. In newer versions of Qlik Sense, we see that's not going to be the case. As we saw in that first example where we just dragged and dropped that spreadsheet, the Qlik Sense engine has matured over the time, and it does things that lend itself to more cognitive interaction with extensions and with visualization. So this is a step that we only have to do because this is a legacy object. But anyway, with 2 clicks instead this time, we've got our map of all of our states. And now let's go ahead and we're going to color this by sales amount. And so here we are, we see all of our states by sales amount. And now just as before, let's go ahead and throw our cities in. We want those to be a marker, and we will call, let's see, I think they called it city. And again, this is something that we would not have to do typically, but since this is a legacy app, we're going to pick the latitude and longitude. We have to actually pick the latitude and longitude. So there's all of our cities, and then once again, if we want to set up drilling, it's a very simple process. Just say that state is the parent. And we're done. So just, it's a few seconds to go ahead and unbuckle a legacy object with a new object. Okay, so let's go on and complete something, this time completely from scratch. We are using our own data set and everything here. So let me show you this data that I downloaded from the US Census Bureau. And what this data looks like, it's very boring data. It's just a CSV file. It's got 3 fields. It's got the zip codes for every zip code in the US. It's got a couple of metrics about each of the zip codes, how many people live there, and what's the household income there. So let's go ahead and go through the same exercise. We're going to drag and drop that on here. We'll say add data. Oops, I meant to add some more data here. Let me go back to the data manager. So in this case, we have data by the zip, but instead of just creating something and showing everything on the map by zip code, it would be kind of cooler to create a hierarchy. I mean, that's a very natural way for the human brain to think geographically, and especially when you're talking about drilling. You know, it makes sense to start from country to state to county to zip code, or whatever the equivalent it is in your country. So let's go ahead and just start building up a hierarchy. So what we're doing now is we're going to be dragging and dropping some of these QBD files right here. And what these QBD files are that I'm adding, this is part of a geographic library, a curated library of data that is included with your QlikMaps license. So let me go ahead and drag this last one on here, state. And all we really have to do to wire this up is we have to say preview and apply. So all these things, what this has, just to reiterate, all of these QBD files that you saw me dragging on there. So we've got the main piece of data that we got from the US Census, and the rest of these things has the geographic information for them. And this is the information that tells QlikMaps how to plot things on a map. And this is how we were able to be so fast, because we're taking advantage of the Qlik Sense server and the Qlik Sense engine to take care of these things for us. So remember, that's how we were able to reduce all of these round trips and prevent us from having to go to another server, because the Qlik Sense server is the QlikMaps server. So that's really cool unto itself. But what that also means is, no matter where you are in the world, we've got a curated library for you to just go ahead and take your existing data model and do nothing but simply drag and drop, and all of a sudden you've got it geo-enabled. You've got a whole hierarchy enabled. And let's see that in action here. We'll say load data. Okay, so we've got all of our data now. Let's create a new sheet. Throw a QlikMaps object on here. Okay, we've seen this a couple of times before, so I'm going to move faster. We're going to select state, and we're going to color it by, let's color it by household income. So this is the purchasing power for each state. The darker the color, that means the more purchasing power they have. So remember, this data came in at the zip code level. So the fact that we've got it by state was really cool that we were able to move that quickly. And the reason we were able to move that quickly, once again, is because we had a curated library of geographic files. So now let's go ahead and select a single state. And now we want to plot all the counties. And so, as you've seen before, to set up drilling, it's as simple as saying that state is the parent of county. And let's go ahead and continue, and we'll select a single county, and now we want to we'll plot the zip codes. So bang, 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 in just a few clicks, we took a raw CSV file that we got from the US Census, dragged and dropped that into Qlik Sense. Then we dragged and dropped a few QBD files that were curated by the QlikMaps team to give you a geographic hierarchy. And then now, about 6 clicks later, we've got a drillable functioning map here inside of we've shown, and in this example, it's been polygons, but sometimes it's nice to show things, instead of as a polygon, we want to show it as a marker, for example. So now we'll say, rather than switching extensions or anything like that, we're just going to say now we want to represent zip as a bubble instead. And so we're going to size it by the number of housing units there, and we're going to color it by the number of incomes. So the bigger the bubble, that means the more people live in that zip code, and the darker that bubble, that means the wealthier that zip code is. So as we can see here, there's a way for us to really quickly change the way we visualize things here. So if we contrast that with QlikGeo Analytics, in order to change that from a polygon to a marker, we would have had to switch two different extensions. We would have had to create another extension, and there would have been yet a third extension to tie those two things together. You'd have to repeat the process over and over for every layer that you want to add. So we can see here within a single extension, we can move very, very fast. And, and similarly, I can't think of a good use case for it, but, if we want to represent the zip codes as a line, we've got it. And so how are we able to do that? Well, it goes back to that curated library that we've got for you. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And I do see some questions coming in, so thank you. So thank you for keeping them coming. One more piece of data we got from the government. This one was from the U.S. Department of Labor. This was about unemployment, and I'll go real fast on this one, just because we've already kind of gone down this path. Once again, I meant to add more data. So this unemployment data, by the way, came in at the county level, came in at the county and year level. So once again, we are adding in our curated geo files, come with QlikMaps. All we simply have to do to associate everything, we hit preview, apply, and load. So now let's go back to our app and let's create something really quickly here. We'll select a single year. Throw QlikMaps on here real quick. Remember that the data came in at the county level, but because we have the library, we can represent things at the state level. We'll do it by state, and we will do it by let's do it by, color it by, where am I looking for here? The size of the labor force. So far, what we've done, so we've got a very powerful map here in 2 clicks. We had some very raw data that came in at the county level for unemployment. And in 2 clicks, we rolled it up to the state level and shown things and coloring it accordingly in 2 clicks. So the cool thing about self-service is, well, it's self-service. Sometimes the downsides of self-service are that you lose some control over the power and flexibility of that. And I want to be very clear that that's not the case with QlikMaps here. So we've shown kind of the basic use of it. So let's go ahead and start opening these things up and talk about the other things we can do to make more sophisticated visualizations here. Well, we still have some very basic things. Rather than maybe an orange palette, we want a green palette. Or we want to show some sort of gradient. Maybe this would be an interesting gradient like that. Maybe we want to mess with the opacity. The other thing we can do is maybe we want to change the number of categories and buckets. So right now we've got 10 discrete colors in our palette. Maybe we only want 3. And what does that look like? That looks like a real simple stoplight visualization. So I do want to add a little bit gratuitously, how is QlikMaps able to do this so quickly? So QlikMaps itself is actually using machine learning behind the scenes to profile the data and figure out what the colors are and put things into categories. So for those of you who are machine learning nerds on the call, we're using some unsupervised machine learning to do those things. And in fact, if we want to get even more icon and start being even more diligent about it. So right now we've got end tile breaks. We can do k-means clustering for these things. These will mean a whole lot of things to you, and there's lots of documentation that comes with this. But the point is you have a whole lot of flexibility here. In fact, you have the ultimate flexibility if you would like. You'd want to use an expression instead. And so you can write as complicated an expression as you want to go ahead and get these things very, very fine-grained control over things. And to that point, let me go ahead and just take this over here to this one. This is an example of what a finished product might look like. but we've had the time to go in and change the pop-ups and change these things. Now I'll go ahead and just animate it. And so we can see unemployment and the labor force over time here by cycling through things here in QlikMaps. So everybody always asks here, how are you doing the animations? Well, we do animations the exact same way that QlikGeoAnalytics does. There's a separate third-party extension. We'll be happy to provide to you if you're QlikMaps customer that allows you just to basically automate the selection process. So nothing really fancy behind the scenes. Exactly the same way QlikGeoAnalytics does. So we're running out of time here a little bit. So let me do one more thing we talked about here, because I made the statement ago that you're not losing anything with functionality. So there's a lot of great self-service capabilities, but you're not losing any of the power and the ability to speak to advanced requirements. Well, some advanced requirements that we often hear about is indoor mapping. And so in this example here, we're looking at the indoor mapping for an airport here. And so what we've got here is we've got data about people's traffic through the airport. And we've got a ton of data here. I mean, we've got about 110 million data points for just a couple hours here. In this case, what we are looking at, I believe this is wait time. So of the people that are traversing this airport terminal, what is their wait time in there? So we can say at this block, most people spent about 1 minute in this area. The other thing we can do is actually instead look at density. And so now what we've got is we've got 20 people. So the darker the bin here, that means the more people pass through this point here. There's another way we can represent density, and that's this sort of heat map here. So hopefully that speaks to the person's question who asked about indoor mapping. Yeah, we would consider indoor mapping an example, one of many examples of a advanced requirement that, yes, we can absolutely take care of in QlikMaps. Okay, so in the few minutes we've got left, let me go ahead and start hammering through questions real quick. Can we have 3+ layers? Yeah, so we can have up to 10 layers of data that's in your data model and up to 10 layers of data that's outside of your data model. That's something I didn't have a chance to show today, but if you go to vimeo.com/analytics8, you'll see some examples of pulling in data that's outside of your Qlik data model. I think I have an example here that I can show you real quickly here. Okay, I guess I don't have a working example for that right now, but there's plenty of videos, and yeah, we can show you some of those later. And there's, like I said, there's plenty of videos on our Vimeo channel. Does it always require an active server connection? So in this case, I was doing everything in the desktop client. So in this case, the answer would be no if you were using the desktop client. Now, just like with anything in Qlik Sense, you have to have a connection between QlikMaps and between the browser and the Qlik Sense server. And that's not unique to QlikMaps. That's specific to Qlik Sense in general. Now, if the question was about QlikGeoAnalytics, the answer gets a lot more complicated. You would have to have a live connection between the end user's browser and the Qlik server, but it would also have to have a live connection between the Qlik, let me go ahead and just bring that back up, between the Qlik server as well as all these other servers behind the scenes. So not sure which question that was, but hopefully I answered both of them. How are updates to geographic entities managed? Well, that's part of the thing that you're paying for with your QlikMaps maintenance, is you're not just paying for the software once geographic files. And that's one of the things that we take a lot of time in, is making sure that, for example, you've got the most up-to-date zip code information or the most up-to-date county information. So that's something that that you're getting as part of your maintenance. We got time for we had a couple more examples that I can take to. If we have KML files, can we take advantage of those? Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that's what Yes, is the short answer. QlikMaps will actually recognize that it's a KML file that you loaded inside of your Qlik data model as well. So in fact, all of those examples that you saw, including that out of the box one, it was this guy, you recall this one here. If you look in the data model, it's actually a KML file at one point. So yeah, we can consume KML files just the same as our QED files and other geospatial formats. We had some questions about the color palette that takes into account color blindness. Yeah, in fact, the palettes that we have available in there, those are actually some industry standard palettes. There's actually something that's called a color scientist that determine those. But as I mentioned, if you want to have fine-grained control over your colors or your pop-ups or your border widths or anything, you can always edit the expression to do so. Got time for one real quick last question is, will this presentation be available later? And the answer is yes, and that's probably as good as time as any to pass the baton back to you, Tracy.
Great, thank you. So thanks again, Patrick. Yeah, we've already gone a couple minutes over here. So thanks again, Patrick, for presenting, and thanks to everyone for taking the time out of your day to join us. So as Patrick mentioned, so yes, I will be sending everyone a follow-up email, and it will contain the link to a recording of this webinar in case you want to listen to it again. Patrick also mentioned some videos, and a couple people I think were asking about videos. So if you go to QlikMaps.com, we have some videos there. And I will also include a link in the follow-up email to some more reference videos and some other materials that you guys might find useful. And if we did not get to one of your questions, we will absolutely follow up with you afterwards and get you the answer to what you asked. So thanks again for joining. That will go ahead and conclude our webinar, and have a great day. Bye.